you, Sam.
Oh, but I don't know what I can. It actually works out like this. I think that was right there. So you had to wait to get that many in the classroom before we went on with 6 weeks of boot camp. And then we went rifle range. It was the only thing out there, you had to learn the rifle and shoot for a record. Now here's the dog tags. I still have it.
It's like quite different from what's today.
Did we get church on it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got last on it.
There's the emerald. There's something at the end of the natives at Guadalcanal made and they sold it. And then they made a little bit of everything, just like Hawaii hula skirts, you know, and sold them, and anything, just for them to make a little money. Now there's a inner island. It's a ticket to go from Tulagi over to Guadalcanal, which had a big, very big coconuts. Coconuts was a big business. They made life jackets for eating, for the juice, and there's a little bit of everything. Now, I'll ask you a question. Do you happen to know what the two dents in the coconuts are? What are they for? You know, in the coconuts, they have just like two eyes, two indented. You know what they're for? Whenever they fall, after a while, there's that juice inside will close up and make a ball. And that ball will start growing. And that's what that's for it to come up through them eyes. And that's what it is.
What do they use?
It costs you when you go and it costs you when you leave. That was after the war. See, I made 2 trips overseas. I was in the Marine Corps for 49 months. 49 months. I spent 33 overseas. See, I made 2 trips. First time I sat home from Guadalcanal and counted malaria. And then the second trip, why I had to, I was sent back to a different outfit. I was in an artillery outfit, 75 outfit. And when I went back, they put me in an amphibious outfit. And every now and then, both of them still have reunions, and they have them all over the world. I mean, all over the United States.
Yeah.
I made the first operation, which is the longest and the hardest, at Guadalcanal.
Yeah.
Then I was sent home about 6 months, and I was sent back, and then the wife and I got married in '43
Okay.
because he said it wouldn't be sent back.
May I ask-
6 months later, I was back in service.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes,
You
after
said
he
you
told
were
me
at,
that.
The Guadalcanal, I think, I can't say
Yeah.
it right, but
Mhm.
how was it hard? What did you have to do?
Mhm.
How was it hard? What did you have to do there?
Well, for a lot of times I drove for Lieutenant Colonel. Lieutenant Colonel Curry, which spent 50 years in the Marine Corps and come out a Major General. And he was, the last time I talked to him, I called him once in a while. The last time I couldn't get an answer, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But he was I drove for him for a while. And, but he made the first time that he went on the reunions, he was it. But after that, why, he had to take too many pills, and he couldn't go out and make it. And I made first operation was Guadalcanal. I come back home, and I went back. Well, let's see. I went in August 15th, 1941, and I come out in October in 45. So out of that 49 months, that's about 33 overseas.
Yeah.
And I was in the Guadalcanal, and then Guam, then the Marshall Island, and the last one was Okinawa. And the fleet that time I've read were the 32 cargo ships had nothing but jeeps. Can you understand that? And I don't know how many jeeps each one of them could carry, but it was an awful lot anyway. But they used them for everything.
Yeah.
They used them to transport the wounded. They could carry 4 or 5 if they wasn't too bad, and 3 or 4 if they was, but they'd be on a platform, stretcher, and guys holding them or strapped down. But they used them for everything. They even used them on patrols, so they could go fast and get out of the way. But I seen an awful lot when I first went over. Seen an awful lot of aerial combats. In fact, I could see them, and they weren't jets or nothing. They're just regular planes. And I could see dog fights. They'd pick on them bombers. And there's one of them on Tulagi there, a little small island across from Guadalcanal. Why, I watched them pick out it's flying overhead, and I watched them pick out the rear end guy, and they forced him, they downed him right in front of me, right out in the bay. I was up on this hill. And when I went back out there, I was talking about that, and there was 2, the wife and I went back out there, and there was 2 Medal of Honor winners. And he said, "Why?" One looked at the other, and then looked at him. He said, "Don't get me into this." He said, "Now," he said, "you said you seen that." He said, "I was sitting up above up there. That was his first day in combat. He just got there." And he said, "What happened to the other plane?" I said, "I seen the one plane when they went, both of them went, and then one of them was shot down, but he parachuted down. And the natives, every time one of them would parachute down, they'd pick him up. Didn't make any difference where they were or anything, and bring him over. If there's Japs by, they still brought him over, but they're tied up just like you would tie their hands and fingers and put them on a pole, and here they come. They wanted to see the big man as a general, and he'd give them fruit and stuff. And but then the second time over, I could hear them, and we had speakers around camp where we were, and they'd put them on. You could hear them, and that's all. Couldn't see them. You could see them fall out after they come down so low. You could see them fall out, but after that.
So what exactly did you do in the war?
What was your main
Well,
job?
the first time, I was a driver for the Lieutenant Colonel Curry, biggest part of the time. We went everywhere at night. I had a Jeep where two guys could walk without hitting each other. That's where I could drive. And as long as we didn't have any stumps or anything, I could make it all right. Day or night, and never make any difference. You get a call, we go. We had that artillery outfit had their own outpost where they direct fire. They'd get calls from different units that they need fire in a certain section, and they'd start firing. Well, he was in charge of all that, and he was a great one. And in fact, there at one time, the Army had 155s and 105s, and we just had 75. He'd go aboard ship and fire them through his direction center. Oh, he was a great artillery officer. He was really good. But as I say, he spent 50 years in the Marine Corps. That's a lifetime. And I spent just 49 months.
Yeah.
Now, the second time I went in, I was put in the amphibs, 4th Battalion. And they have reunions every once in a while. The first in that artillery outfit, they call them the Forgotten Battalion. That's what they go by. They was the first ones there, artillery. They was credited with sinking a submarine. And then later on, we were the last to leave. So that's what they call the Forgotten Battalion. And that really was. They have reunions too. I've been to one or two of them. I had one in South Carolina. My wife and I flew out and went to it. Some of them they had one in St. Louis, and I went to it, and I didn't stay very long because there wasn't anybody I knew.
Yeah.
All it was the headquarters for that division, and I didn't know anybody, so I didn't stay very long.
Yeah.
I went back home. They called my wife. She had a brother. He lived in St. Louis. He come and got me. Get out of there.
During the war, were you mainly like a ground unit?
Huh?
Were you mainly on the ground? I mean, you weren't like in the airplanes or on the ships or anything?
No, amphibs, we was on the amphibs. We took the troops in, the first line troops. I had charge of 4 tractors. I had 1 and 3 others. We had 3 sections, and they was A, B, and C, and each the ones with the first section of each well, a group out of the 3 sections had 4 because they had their own. They had a driver and a helper. He could drive too, and we made 3 invasions with them. But I guess overall the hardest one was the first one. You just get used to it, period. Now, out of them right here, I think there's 2 of them. Frank Urbanik, he was hit, and he was in the 8th Marines, and 2nd Division. That was the division. The East Coast had 2nd Division, and West Coast had the 1st Division, and the 2nd Division, and the East Coast had the 1st Division. That's where they just stick it. Is there any in here that you knew?
Yeah, there's a couple in there. know Bill Wingate, his uncle.
Polly Ames, Bob Webb, Alan Green, that's me.
Yeah.
Victor Davison, he's dead. Floyd Naylor, Raymond Curry, he's still living. Leonard Fletcher, didn't know him. Perry Dean Johnson, he was killed. Bob Dean Bessel, he's dead. Harry Parsons, I don't know about it. Frankie O'Bannock, he lived out there what we call East Camp, east side of town. He was the one that was hit, evacuated, and that's the last I knew of him. He was in 8th Springs. And Billy Joe Malamastis, he was killed too. He was killed. Pat George still living. Ronald Carpenter, I don't know about him. Donnie Minor's dead. Claude Carpenter. Virgil Phillips, he's dead, a good friend of mine. We were at one of the reunions over at Days Inn, and he come by, walking by, and I said, "What do you say, dog face?" He never said it there. I said, "Kenny!" "What?" "Oh, you, what do you want?" He said, "When was the last time you seen me?" He said, "San Diego, 1942, you chasing that blonde down the street." Oh, they lived north of town. They was a big family too.
Yeah.
I was a family of 13, number 11. And all that's left is one girl, which is 5, and she lives out in Sun City, West Arizona, and I live in Christopher, Paul lives in Elgin, and Lawrence lives in West Frankfort. That's 3 boys.
Were you ever directly involved in the fighting?
I was, Paul and I was in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
Lawrence was in the Navy. Harold was in the Army. So that was that. What they done, I don't know. I had it's a nephew, actually, it'd be a second nephew. No, I said nephew, but my brother's Paul's boy. He come to the house one day and wanted to have me go from start to finish, you know. And I have a book at home that he compiled. Well, this cap is from the Solomon Islands, when the wife and I went back there. And they got their independence from I think England was one of their possessions in 1976. And the capital is at Guadalcanal. There, and where we stayed at was a hotel operated by Japanese that owned it. And he just always, the way you see him, in the morning, he wouldn't congregate with nobody.
Yeah.
He'd get up and he'd go in the office where they exchange your money
Yeah.
for their money. But I say, they got you going and coming when you went, when you left. That was after the war. And I met a captain of a destroyer that had 318 men on board, the captain himself. And while we were sitting there, they was looking for this ships out in the bay. They call it Iron Bottom Bay. There's 50 of ours and their ships out there. And I seen a lot of sea battles just from up on top of the hill. At night you could just see the flashes, of course, but daytime, which happened every now and then, you could see them. In fact, bombers flew over our island one time, and I run up the hill. There's a foxhole up there, and I went up there to jump in it. I jumped in, jumped without just running, and jumped right in. And I landed on a boy from Blair. Hey, what's going on? I said, buddy, there's planes coming right over the top of us. They did too. And I forget what his name was. But he's a machine gunner. And one of the battles, what they call the Battle of Tanneru, that was the Japs was making the big banzai attack, and he got a slug, and it lodged right next to his spine. And every now and then there'd be pieces of bone and shrapnel come out of his back, but they couldn't operate and get that away from his spine. As far as I know, Bob Dalrymple, that's the guy who jumped in on. And as far as I know, he's still living. He's a heck of a fine guy.
As the U.S. approached involvement in the war, what were your feelings about our country's participation?
What's that?
As the U.S. approached involvement in the war, what were your thoughts about our country's participation?
Well, yes. I tell you what, near Henderson Field, which was a very small field, and the Japs had started on it, and they finished it. We finished it. We got bombed and shelled. We were close to by there, close to the grove. That's close to there. Nearly every night. See, we didn't have any protection. Our fleet left out. We was so daggum small.
Yeah.
We lost so many ships at Pearl Harbor. That's what accounted for that. And we'd get shelled every other night. We lost a lot of men by them, the shelling. And they'd bomb us till what they'd do, if they'd go by at night, you'd hear them. If they go north, they just go over. And coming back, what they'd do, they'd go in, get a speed and get into a dive and just coast in and bomb.
Yeah.
But there's light planes. And so they stationed a couple of fighters in ready, waiting for them. And when they made their pass, well, they took right up and shot them down. That was the end of that. They didn't try that anymore.
So did you feel we needed to be participating, we needed to participate in the war? Did you think
What?
it was kind of our duty to get into the war?
I didn't
Did
understand.
you think it was,
Hmm?
when you went into the war, did you feel that it was your duty to be in the war?
No. I don't get you.
Whenever you came to be in the war, I suppose you were drafted, right?
I still don't
Were
understand.
you drafted when you...
Oh, no.
Okay.
I could have
You
been.
were
Did
enlisted?
you enlist?
Yeah,
All right.
I could have been.
So did
If
did you feel it was necessary and that it was your duty to go fight in the war?
Well, I tell you what, I was going to college down at Carbondale. When the draft come up, they put us in 1C, and they didn't wait to the end of the year. They end of that semester. You had to go or be drafted. So my brother had gone in. We didn't know it for about 2 weeks. So I stepped up down, and Chief of Police said, I only said, is Paul Green your brother? And I said, yeah. I said, well, what about? And he said, well, I got a notification here that you want to know if he had any criminal record. He's in the Marine Corps. That's the first time we knew that. So I made up my mind I'd just go with him. Well, I don't know whether it was a good idea or not, because he was in communications. downstairs, and I was upstairs, and he was always volunteering for something.
Yeah.
And first we volunteered for paratubes. Every jump you got $50. We was making $28 a month. And after your insurance and your laundry bill, you got about 18. Now, I don't know, it'd be double or triple that, just when you first go in. But that's just a thing of the past. Well, is there any more questions?
Did the country feel we needed to go into the war?
The what?
The country, what was its view on the war?
Well, I'll tell you what, we didn't have too much trouble with the natives. Now, the thing of it is, the natives on, there's across from Okinawa, there's Florida Islands right behind us, which you could almost swim across on one side of it. It's that close. We went over, we were looking for water. We didn't find none. So we had a hard time. What we had to do was boil our water, and we had nothing but gasoline drums from the Japanese.
Yeah.
To try to distill it. We just drank it at nighttime. Think I answer that.
Yeah.
What are your most vivid memories of war?
Huh?
What are your most vivid memories of the war?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know, just anything special. I know a lot of times you didn't know where you're coming or going. But the only thing it was something we had to be done, so we tried to do the best we could. But it just seemed like that you was on pins and needles practically all the time. We were on Okinawa when they started using them dive bombers. They just pick out ships and they just dive into them.
The kamikaze.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, they wouldn't back up or nothing. They done a lot of the destroyers. They got more than anything out because they was on the outer ring. There's destroyers. Then the next come the light cruisers, and then the heavy cruisers, then the battle wagon, then the carriers. That's the way they formed. But when we pulled in at the Guadalcanal, before we got off ship, there was bombers flew overhead, but they didn't hit none of the ships. And at our line of departure, why the planes come in and right over the top of our head, not very high. And it started right at the edge of the beach, and just straight right along. There'd be a half a dozen or more planes all along, and they just come right on down through there. Mm-hmm. But after they bombarded 2 or 3 days ahead of time, and the Japanese got where they built big bomb shelters. And there's also very adept at using caves, building caves, and they'd fight from them.
Yeah.
And that was dog tags. That's one thing they always taught you. Your serial number, 319307. And then you wore that on your wrist, just like that. Now they hang them, I think. At night.
How did you feel the country treated you when you got back from the war?
Well, I was working at a grocery store before I went, and when I come back, I got a job at the mines, and I worked at the mines for 32, 33 years. I was a top boss. The last place I worked at was at 21 Cesar. And I changed while I was there. I started a week after they sunk the place. And every time they changed ropes on the drums for the skips, I was the guy that had charge to change them. And out of all of them we changed, I made a mistake on one of them. And my boss was on the day shift. He had to take it all undone, string it out, and redo it. That's because you have to have 3 laps, complete laps, and then down. And we turned. I'd run across. I've got it. What we had to do at home. We had one at the mine, kept a special drawer, but then had it there at home. I just found. I've been looking for something that the wife and I can't find, and that is, I have, and she knows it. She's seen him. I have a menu from the U.S. President Adams. There's 3, there's the Adams, the Jackson, and the Crescent City, all in the same line, troop ships. And I have a menu there in 41 of what we had for dinner. And we tore that house apart. Boy, I said, I know it's here, but we can't find it. Still haven't found it. We tore everything up, and I have quite a bit of coin collection. And we've been saving these quarters of the different states.
Yeah.
We've got, we got, how many can you put it? $10 in a roll, as a regular roll.
Yeah.
We got 2 of them and ready for the other. And I run across one the other day that was, I forget now. It was a different kind.
This is the Maryland.
No, it was a different kind than them. And I don't remember now just exactly what it was. Yeah, you know, I met a friend, got acquainted with, and he worked for that company. And I said, he told me that's what that was. Was go back and forth. The way I do, just get that. And he worked for that company. And so I was going to go and find out about everything, but I never didn't get the chance. I had to leave. But there's one, you know, last night I slept about half the time. Things are just running through my mind as they're going. It just kept me awake. Well, is there any other questions you'd like to ask? I can try to tell you.
Would you say overall you're not exactly glad, like happy, but are you proud that you fought in the war, that you went into the service?
We did, but I'm 81, my wife's 82, and it's getting where it's a little hard. It's hard for us to go anywhere. Now, do you happen to know my grandson, Dustin Bush?
Yes.
Do you know him?
Yeah.
Okay. When he graduated out of the 8th grade 3 years ago, we took him to Australia. And that cost a bundle. But we'd taken the other kids somewhere, so he is next. So we tried to teach one just as like we did the other. We flew out of Los Angeles, and 14 hours later, non-stop, we was in Perth, no, not Perth, I take that back. We were in Australia, and I don't remember now where we did land.
Sydney.
And next morning, at 8 o'clock, the bus was there to pick us up. And 2 weeks on the road. We went up one side and down the hill. Once in a while, we would stay overnight. But most of the time, or maybe 2 days, it gives us a chance to move around and do what we wanted to do. But, well, when Andrew Lynn and Pete, Pete was 7 and Andrew Lynn was 9, they lost their dad.
Yeah.
And after a while, we took them to Hawaii and spent 2 weeks there. And we had a wonderful host, tour guide too. And I don't know, he was a singer. He had a heart attack, and he just became a tour guide. And the last time we had a banquet on them, why he sang in American and Hawaiian. He was a Hawaiian, and he'd give Pete and Andrea a disc if they could play, if they wanted to.
Yeah.
Anybody else got any more questions?
Have anything else you might want to add? Have anything else that you might want to add?
Oh, I will tell you one thing. When we hit Okinawa, it's one thing that won't happen very often. I forget now how long. It was April the 1st, Easter, Sunday, I don't know what else. And it won't happen again till I don't know when it is. That's when we landed on Okinawa with the Amtrak. And we went from the north end of the island. We was down so far, we went north, then come back, and we relieved another outfit on the south end. And so we took our tractors, went across the way, which is about 3 or 4 miles. And one of them come close to sinking, or it did sink, I take it back. Something was wrong with its pump. And one of the boys that was in there, the big heavy set fella, and when it went down about, maybe 100 yards up in front of me, and I seen it finally, all of a sudden it just plunged down, and I didn't see the driver. There's just one of them in there, and pretty soon, boy, he shot up out of there. He almost come all the way out of the water. He went down so far. He could just hardly get his breath. And but that was the only one we lost there, just the tractor. Now we went, there must have been 3 or 4 miles across there. We relieved some. And then later on, to take the town of Naha, we took the Marines out so far, and then went across, and then straight in, then they all went ashore. We had one fella in our tractor, which he shouldn't have done. He stood up too far at some guy and he got it right between the eyes. Just fell right back in the tractor. What time's your class?
Oh, we have.
It doesn't matter whenever we finish.
Well, is there anything
Do
else?
you have any opinions of the Japanese? Like when you see
Well,
the Japanese at the mall, do you think anything weird?
I'll tell you what, if they had to give them bombed twice, we were going to hit southern Honshu, which was the South Island. And if we had we'll have to fight the men, the women, the babies, and all, every one of them. And there had been a lot of casualties, a lot of them. We had already had new clothes, new ammunition, new tractors, already been on maneuvers to try everything out and everything, and just waiting to go aboard ship. We were ready to go aboard ship when they declared it over. And they sent you home on the many points you had. When I was up at the interview, they said, well, you don't need this point. You don't. I said, don't make any difference. Take them all, but leave me 85. That's what it took to get out. I said, you can have them all, but 85. I think I had 160 or 70. The length of service, so much for each invasion, this and that. That's where they let you out. I said, you can have them all, just don't.
Yeah.
Just give 85.
I've heard this opinion before of the Japanese. That they,
Well, I'll tell you, I wouldn't trust one as far as they could spit. I can't spit very far. Then, now I just ignore them and just forget all about it. But the thing about them, they'd commit a hara-kiri a lot of times before they get captured. But they weren't supposed to get captured.
Yeah.
Now, first, when I first hit shore, it was across from Okinawa on two little islands named Roy and something else. And I went in with a radio man. His assistant, he was sick, so I told him I'd go with him. Yeah, he's from California. In fact, after that, he'd come by and visit. But anyway, you had to get down on your knees and you cranked it to make the power, and he could talk in it.
Yeah.
And he could call, I don't know how far, if you need anything for fire or what have you. In fact, he called a destroyer in, and it come right on in. The water was so deep, come right in close to them two little islands, forward point blank at the defenders on the island. They wasn't 100 yards from shore. They had sent some tanks over there and they burnt them. Well, I talked to one of the guys, and he was cut here, across the back, but you just enough to break the skin. I had a sword trying to kill him, and he got that. He's come that close. Everything was in tatters back behind. Yeah. Any other questions? I don't know.
Did you keep in contact with your family? Did you ride home a lot?
Well, when I could. Yes.
Whenever you could, did you try to
Yeah.
as much as possible?
Mm-hmm. Yes. You see, after we got married, we were allowed the extra $50, and the wife, she was working down in Crab Orchard. When the war come on, well, she went to Detroit with 3 or 4 other girls, and they worked up there. She was what I call Rosie the Riveter. She worked on planes, on the wing,
On the wings.
mm-hmm, where they raised and lower 'em. Well, that's what she done on the fighter planes.
That's nice.
So they stayed up there all during the war. In fact, when I come home on leave the first time, well, we was going to get married. And I come down with Blair again. They sit me down to Marion, the Veterans Hospital, and they said, well, they won't take you down there. You're not a veteran. I didn't have nothing to say. I just told my mother to make sure I got my leave papers. And I got down there, and my brother, oldest brother, was down there with me. Gilbert's had their funeral hearse. That's what they took me down there in. And when I got down there, I had a 107.2 fever. And I seen one boy before he died. He had 111 temperature, and he just went out of his head. They couldn't hold him down, so one of the guys run into. We were in the men's section, and they had a women's section next to us. They ran in there and got one of the nurses to come in there, and boy, he just quieted down right now. And he turned around and he said, boy, she pretty.
Yeah.
That she just quieted down, just stayed put. 111? Wow, you cook your brain. You'd be brain dead if you didn't,
I know.
if you lived. No, mine was 107 down at Marion down there. And I was in there for about a month. See, when I got home, we'd already talked about getting married, because they told me I wouldn't go back overseas. And the wife, I mean, now my wife, and my sister Ruth, they wanted to go shopping uptown, so I went up there with them. And I said, well, I'll just go in the drugstore run by Mr. Lavender then. They ain't even there anymore. It's not even no building there, it's torn down. It's right close to where the restaurant is. Just it's on the corner. Well, anyway, I said, I'll wait for you here. So they went on over. And before they got back, I started getting a chill, and I knew he was coming on. So I called home and told my dad to come up and get me. And I asked Mr. Lavender if he had any Atibrans. See, that's what we took. We'd take for 3 days, wait a day, and then we'd take something else and wait a day and take another test. And we wanted to start all over again until it quit. But after I got out, it wasn't out very long, and I was sick in bed for about 2 or 3 weeks. And It was the same symptoms. I knew it was malaria, but Dr. Love didn't call it malaria. He called it summer sickness or something. I don't know. The flu. What it does, 1 minute you're about to freeze to death, and they can pile all the covers they can get. And when you get over that, you get so doggone hot, you're gonna burn up. You start throwing them. Then you pick them up again. It's something that I haven't had it for quite a while.
That's good.
But they told me not to ever give my blood, donate my blood to anybody. I'm afraid they'd give them up. So it's happened. And anymore, it seemed like anytime I hit myself, I bruise or cut myself. Oh boy, something else.
You did a good job. Done a good job telling us about the war. You've done a good job.
Oh,
speaking.
thank you. Well, I tried to.
Anybody else have any more questions? No. I guess we're done then. You did a good job though. Interesting.
Well, thank you very much. No other wife, after Dustin, we took him to Australia, we decided that was about as much traveling that we could.
Yeah.
But they wasn't they used to do one and not treat the other one. So, but now, it's been about 2 or 3 years ago, when he started, when he was a freshman, what we done, we bought him some stock, $1,000 worth of stock, for him to go to school on.
Yeah.
So by the time he's ready to go, it's his, it's not ours, it's his. It's not his brother's, not his dad, it's all his, whenever he sells it. Yep, I graduated here in 37.
37? Really?
Not this one.
Huh?
See this was built